Hi everyone, back to Evermore YouTube channel. It's Chris back with my rant stroke thought of the day. Bit of a detailed thought, this one, to be honest with slides to back me up, because you can see the title in the video. As the song goes, we got Bruno in the middle. Well, we got problems in the middle right now, and I think anyone can see that. You could have a Labrador with a bright collar and you could see that, to be fair. This is not good for Newcastle United, and this has been going on for quite some time, to be honest with you, and I'm going to talk about this right now. I've seen other people talk about it. Craig Hope did a video the other day talking about the need for a number 6. Fair play to him. He gets a lot of shit from people, especially recently, but he has been talking about that for a long time, as have a few people, myself included, and I just don't understand why this hasn't been recognised by the football club in any kind of capacity. We're going to get right into this in a minute and look at the slides and show you the evidence why we need a number 6 stroke defensive midfielder. But this is a real problem for the football club. So let's just look at the personnel who's in midfield right now. All very good players, but none of them a defensive midfielder, or even seems to have the intention or desire to be a defensive midfielder and drop into holes and stop, crafty little players on the ball who can find pockets of space and through balls. Nobody seems to be bothered to do it in this whole, cluster of midfielders that we have, starting with Bruno Guimaraes, despite the fact he played in the defensive midfield role for Lyon. I think he's played there for Brazil as well a few times. Doesn't want to do it for us. He wants to be a number 8, so he's not playing there, really. He can drop deep, he can make some very good tackles, but he wants to go forward and make things happen. He's made that very, very clear, even though Eddie Howe has repeatedly said he thinks Bruno is his number 6, which is a bit bizarre. Joe Linton, box-to-box midfielder. He's up and down like a fireman on a pole. And he's very good at it at times, but of late he's been pretty shit at it, really. But he's great at smashing into people. He's athletic, he's strong, he's quick. He can defend the box 1 minute and be pushing for a goal the next. But we haven't seen that Joe Linton for quite some time. Obviously, injuries have taken a toll. He was brilliant in the first game of this season, but he's been really, really off the pace for the rest of the games. On the ball, he's been terrible, absolutely shocking. Sean Longstaff gets a lot of shit going on to Sean next. He gets a lot of grief, in terms of his ability on the ball. But Joe Linton at the minute is no better than Sean Longstaff. Sean will run all day long. He's a bit like a diet Joe Linton. He will run all day long, give you that box-to-box presence, but he doesn't have the strength and the physicality that Joe Linton has. Ironically enough, the player that was closest to that, we sold to Nottingham Forest for 35 million quid in the shape of Elliot Anderson. He looked like he was starting to become that physical midfield presence, as well as have that quality on the ball. Again, that deal is looking worse and worse by the week, to be honest with you. Sandro Tonali, the big signing of last year, 55 million quid, an excellent player. Again, doesn't seem to want to be a defensive midfielder, despite the fact that I think he has played there in Serie A and possibly for Italy as well. So he's not playing either. Joe Willock, very, very good attacking midfielder, when we signed him, goal machine, 8 goals in 8 games under the Baron of Bacon. But Eddie Howe's turned him into a better all-around footballer. But now Joe Willock seems to lack an identity as a player, whereas in the past he was one of them midfielders, a bit like a Frank Lampard style player, arriving late into the box to score goals. And that's not Joe Willock anymore. He's a ball carrying midfielder. He takes the ball 15, 20 yards of the pitch. He's very, very good at it. He's deceptively quick. But the problem with Joe Willock, again, injuries for Joe Willock, hasn't been able to consistently be in the team for a long period of time of late because of injuries, and last season as well. So that's really hampered him. Louis Miley came through. I think he's a very, very talented player, excellent on the ball. We've already seen that with the passes and the assists that he's got at the age of 17 last season. Played in the Champions League and it was nothing to him. He just took to it like a duck to water. But he is not a number 6 or defensive midfielder either. He's a young lad. You could kind of coach him into being that player. And I do think, we did see him putting in some tackles towards the end of before he got injured last season. I remember the Luton goal for Harvey Barnes. He smashes Barnes and gets Barkley and gets the ball back for Barnes to score. So that was good signs. But you don't want to drag Louis Miley 15 yards further back and take away large elements of his game as well. So this is a huge problem for the football club. And how have we got here? Why are we here? Is it a failure of the manager? Is it a failure of the scouting network and the board? I think it's a collective failure of everybody, really, to be honest with you. And I think there has got to be an element of Eddie's stubbornness here to not see the need for that player. The 4-3-3 has served Eddie very well, no doubt about it. He saved us from relegation, got us in the Champions League, finished 7th last season. But, towards the end of last season, you could see people were finding us out, and it's not really hard to figure out how to beat Newcastle United's press, how to play through it at the moment, and we've even got slides to show you. So we'll start with a goal at the weekend. This is Emile Smith-Rowe's goal. And you can see here from the start of the play, that's Emile Smith-Rowe on the ball. He's going to find Alex Iwobi out wide. The defence again, I kind of keep an eye on Alex Iwobi. The two midfielders there in the shape of Bruno Guimaraes, who's the nearest to the ball, and Joe Linton to the first of the ball. Joe Linton in this goal is absolutely shocking, to be honest with you. His lack of positional sense, his lack of defensive nous is schoolboy-esque. It really is. If this was Sunday League, he'd be fucking screamed at by the coach and the rest of the lads on the park. So you can see it as the play kind of progresses here and moves on. So Bruno's kind of sucked into the ball. Again, Joe Linton is standing there. He's not picking up a man in particular. He's not, going over to help. The blue arrow was really where Joe Linton should be dropping into if he had the defensive nous in his brain to do it. Dan Burn, could he step out? Maybe possibly he could do as well. So it's a collective failure by midfield and defence. But, Bruno Guimaraes could step into there. So, because who's going to go to the ball? Is Fabian Schär going to the ball? Is Bruno going to the ball? One of them, somebody between the four of those players needs to step into that position where the blue arrow is. And that's where a defensive midfielder would come in to play there. You can see as it goes on there. So this is Smith Rowe. He runs right through the middle of the two of them. So Bruno Guimaraes has gone to the ball, so there's three of them trying to close down Iwobi on the ball. Same thing happened with Traore for the first goal, and not a single one of them made a tackle. Same with this. Smith Rowe runs right through the middle of the two bleach blonde Brazilians. He's got an easy finish because Joe Linton doesn't track the run whatsoever. So that's really poor for that goal, really, really poor. And that would be poor in itself if that would have been the first time that goal had been conceded. But we've seen that goal time after time after time, and this is what really worries me, that the kind of nonchalantness and the ignorance to think that we don't need a defensive midfielder in our ranks in this squad is breathtaking, to be honest with you. Because look at this. This is the goal. We're playing Manchester City next week, so this is quite pertinent to pull us up. I was at this game, and I remember watching it. We were 2-1 up, and I was thinking, I can't believe this. We're going to win. We're going to beat Manchester City. It's an absolutely brilliant game. Now, not a lot of teams can go to the bench and bring Kevin De Bruyne off the bench. Man City can. But Kevin De Bruyne is going to find those pockets of space. He's going to get in the ball. He's going to make things happen. There's a huge problem here. This is so visual to the flaws that are in the Newcastle United makeup right now. And it isn't difficult to see where the flaws are. Last season, it was let's attack Dan Burn, a left back, because he's got no pace. So even teams like Luton and Bournemouth were putting speedy players up against Dan Burn in the left back position because they knew that was a weakness, a chink in the armour. This is now the biggest chink in Newcastle United's armour. You can see there, the ball's played in, I think, by Rodri to Kevin De Bruyne. Sean Longstaff is obviously, I think, attempted to close down Rodri, but he's late into that kind of challenge. The ball's already gone. Longstaff's trying to chase the ball back. You can see there, circled in yellow next to Sean Longstaff, in front of De Bruyne, is Bruno Guimaraes and Louis Miley almost standing in each other's pockets. Marking who, lads? Marking who? Who's not dropped back 10 yards to pick up Kevin De Bruyne? The two of them are completely oblivious to where probably one of the best midfielders on the planet is. Almiron's out wide there. He's not watching the play either, the cover up for Kieran Trippier, because that's Oscar Bob in the bottom of the corner. So there's a huge problem here. The defence aren't stepping up and the midfield aren't dropping back. This is a huge Achilles heel for Newcastle United right now. And in that position right there is where a number 6 would occupy space. So rather than Louis Miley and Bruno Guimaraes standing hand in hand, the number 6 drops back 5-10 yards, spots De Bruyne's run, tries to block him, or maybe just even halves him, as Roy Keane says, smash into somebody, make himself feel better. That's what a number 6 defensive midfielder does. And we don't have that player, which is why we concede that goal. Now, you might say, oh, that's Manchester City, Chris. You're being a bit harsh there because loads of teams will concede a goal like that against Manchester City. What about Nottingham Forest, lads? Because this is Nottingham Forest. And lasses, let's be fair, who is going to concede a goal like this against Nottingham Forest? We are, because once again, the gap is so fucking big, you could park a double-decker bus in there. So you can see there in this clip, I think that's Morgan Gibbs-White in the ball, and that's Anthony Elanga on the shoulder of Dan Burn. This was, again, a problem with the Dan Burn left-back pace situation. They knew that was a weakness, but also the huge chasm between the back four and the midfield three was a huge issue as well. Now, obviously, this season, Sandro Tonali was not available to us. Eddie Howe's not even fucking playing in this season. So, again, we can't even use that as an excuse. But you can see circled in yellow there is Bruno Guimaraes and Louis Miley. Because they're not defensive-minded midfielders, they're both shot up the park, trying to get involved in the attacking play on the edge of the Forest box. We've now been caught on the break and we are fucked because there's no defensive midfielder to occupy that position there. I'm trying to see who that is running back with Gibbs-White. I don't know if that's Almiron possibly who's tucked inside, but we're in big, big trouble. And that ball is going to get slipped through to Elanga with pace, and then he scores as well. So as I said, this goal has happened time and time again, and Newcastle cannot continue to ignore this huge hole in our squad. That is a lack of a defensive midfielder. Now, we can't go and sign anybody because the windows are shut. We didn't sign this player in the window just gone, the window before that, or the window before that, where it was obviously a problem and an issue for this Newcastle United side. Now, I don't know who's to blame for that. If it's the manager, is it the board? You know, but of course, you look at Mitchell and Eales now, but before that, it was Amanda and Murder. Not one of them decided to sign a defensive midfielder. Now, there was loads of links to Calvin Phillips. I don't know if that was Eddie wanting Calvin Phillips because Eddie spotted this problem, but he couldn't get that player. Now, Manchester City were taking the piss, asking for a ridiculous loan fee for him. We all know how it worked out. He went to West Ham and he was pretty shit, to be fair. But that's the kind of makeup of player that we should have been going for. A player who's defensively minded, to sit back, to sit in front of that back four, to guard it from an attack like that, to allow the other players to get up the park and try and make things happen. And when you're caught on the break, that number 6 is in position to either win the ball back or make a foul to stop the play and allow you to catch your breath and get back into the game. We didn't get Calvin Phillips. We haven't seemingly went for anybody else. I think we were linked to Kimmich from Bayern Munich, who's a fantastic player. Now, if he's available in the January window, fucking go and get him, because if Newcastle United are even remotely close to Europe like we were last season, and again, this happened last season, again, Manchester United game and stuff like that, the lack of a number 6, the lack of a disciplined player in that position to stop the play happen and stop that ball going through to catch us out and score that goal that's going to cost us points. If we had that player available last season, maybe we would have qualified for Europe. But if that player is available this January, you cannot sleep on it. You have to get that player in. It's an embarrassment that it seems to be just ignored time and time again. 3 key positions here: right wing, centre forward, backup, and number 6, all completely ignored by the football club. And I want answers why. I want to know why. I don't know if whoever will know why, but it's a pertinent question to ask. And for me personally, I'm glad people like Craig Hope are asking those questions. A lot of the other journalists are too busy fucking mounting the steeds of righteousness to give you shit on Twitter because you're not happy with the performances and some of the shit you're saying. It's all your fault, Newcastle fan, Barry from Wallsend. Get back in your box. It's nothing to do with the manager or the board for not signing the right players. It's been a failure of the scouting network. We've got too many players that play in the same fucking positions. Anthony Gordon, Harvey Barnes, Joe Willock, Joe Litton, they all want to be on the left-hand side of the park. We've got all midfielders who want to be number 8s. We haven't got any number 6s. That's a major problem by the football club. That's a scouting and transfer failure. Now, listen, we've made some really good signings. There's no doubt about that. But we've missed this position massively. And it's arguably one of the most important positions in world football right now because it allows you to play. You look at the likes of Toni Kroos, who played there, the likes of Rodri, who's probably the best in the business, playing at Kante when he was at Chelsea. Fucking brilliant. He made Chelsea tick. Makelele back in the day, for some of you old boys like me, and ladies like me, oldies like me who remember Makelele in the day, they're the kind of players that allow your talented lads to get at the park and make things happen. You cannot neglect that position on the football pitch. And Newcastle are repeatedly neglecting it. So we can't sign anybody. What's the answer? Are we going to fix it? Are we even going to address the elephant in the room anyhow, that this is the problem? Because if you don't address it, we're going to concede that same goal time and time again. So what do? I've got a couple of crazy theories I'll run by you. Let me know in the comments what you think about it. So the first one, a few people have said this, is you play Fabian Schär there. He's great on the ball. He's tidy. He can step up and he can play in that position. But the problem here is we're extremely weak at the back. If you do that, we didn't sign a right-sided centre-half. We didn't get Mark Gahey. If we got Mark Gahey, pushing Sherburn at number 6 would be probably an easy thing to do. But we don't have that luxury. What do? Bring Emil Kraft into the centre-back position, who's done very well, but you bring Emil Kraft in and put Sharon as number 6. I mean, if you're going to try it against anybody, you might as well try it against City, because we haven't got fucking hope or prayer against City the way we're playing at the minute. So you might as well try it. The other option is, do you play Kieran Trippier there? Again, very neat and tight on the ball, positionally, very organised, very smart, good brain on him, can spot runs, can pick passes from deep as well with that ability that he has. Put Tino in the right back position, and can you put Trips in number 6? He has played there a couple of times before. It's not quite really been good, but you got to try something to stop that from happening, because right now at the minute, to score a goal against Newcastle United, you just have to stand in that gap between the back 4 and the midfield 3, and you are going to get the ball. And if you're a decent enough player, which a lot of these players who occupy those spaces are, you will find passes and you will create goals, and that will cause Newcastle United problems. But let us know what you guys think in the comments below about this midfield problem. Are you like Eddie Howe? Do you not think there's a problem here to fix? Or do you think it's so fucking obvious Stevie Wonder could see it? And what would you do with it? Who would you sign in a transfer window? Let us know in the comments below. What would you do with the existing players? Would you want to try somebody in that position, like a Share or like a Trippier, to try and fix it? Because we need to fix it soon. We've got some big fixtures coming up. City, Arsenal, Chelsea, Brighton even, all got players who can occupy that space and cause damage to this football team. And if we don't address this, we are going to be in some real trouble in those fixtures. But let us know in the comments below what you guys think. The other option is to change formation altogether and ditch the 4-3-3. Mark and I will be talking about that tonight on what's going on. Tune in, guys, at 9:30. Jump in the live comments and let us know what you think about that and what kind of formation you would do. We're going to have a few different options there. We're going to pull them up on the screen and let you guys interact with us as we always do on that show. We love having you in the chat. It helps it flow. Keep it ever more, guys. If this is what you like, subscribe. Get us to 9K. There's a belt of prize there, as you all know. The retro blue McEwen shirt. It could be yours if you get us to 9K and enter that prize draw once we get to that point. Like the video, help the channel grow. We'll be back soon. See you later.
Take